For me, I will know that this standard's made an impact if we benchmark where organisations are right now on their delivery and where they'll be a couple of years after they've implemented ISO 7101. I expect a significant increase in output. I expect a significant increase in experience of patients. And for those that are there from a commercial perspective, an increase in their income as well. That's a bold statement to make, I know, but I really, truly believe that this is going to have such an impact on the delivery of healthcare services around the world for people that use to adopt this standard, that it will do all of those things.
You are listening to The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards, with Matthew Childs and Cindy Parakill.
Es una norma muy especial. Hay mucho... Si una norma puede contener cariño y amor, esta norma lo tiene, te lo juro. Es que no hemos solamente pensado en los pacientes, hemos pensado en los familiares de los pacientes, hemos pensado en el bienestar de los trabajadores, hemos pensado en la comunidad, en el medio ambiente, en reducción de gastos. Es que hemos pensado en el mundo, en la planeta, y tenemos que voy a cerrar como nuestro grupo tiene un dicho que siempre decimos en cada vez que reunimos. Esta norma es por el mundo y es para el mundo. Es decir, escrito por el mundo, pero es para el mundo.
Hello, this is Matthew Childs and welcome to The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards. Now, the voices you heard at the top of the episode, either side of Cindy, were those of Adam Leyland and Angela McCaskill. And they were both talking about ISO 7101, the groundbreaking international standard for healthcare quality management. Adam is a director and clinician in the NHS in England, and a standards maker too. He was the international convener of the ISO working group that developed ISO 7101. And Angela is a healthcare expert with BSI. Over the past year, she's been travelling the globe, promoting and advocating for the adoption of this crucial standard. Launched in 2023, ISO 7101 provides a comprehensive roadmap for healthcare organisations to implement systematic approaches to sustainable, high-quality healthcare systems. The standard emphasises evidence-based practices, transparency, and creating a culture that prioritises quality in healthcare delivery. Both Adam and Angela appeared in earlier episodes of the podcast. Adam joined me prior to the Standards 2023 launch, while Angela shared her insights with Andrea Sandy on the Standards show Latino America, hence the Spanish you heard. You can find both episodes on the podcast feed. But given the significance of ISO 7101, we felt it was time to revisit its journey and explore how it is being used worldwide. So, in this episode, Angela returns to take us on a virtual mini world tour, a standards user journey, if you will, highlighting some of the countries that are already embracing ISO 7101 and putting it into practice.
This is Cindy Parakill here, with a reminder that you can rate, review, and subscribe to The Standard Show wherever you get your podcasts. And you can get in touch and find and follow us on social media too. All the details are in the show notes.
Hey Angela, welcome back to The Standard Show.
Great to be here, Matthew. I'm looking forward to our virtual journey.
I hope you haven't packed too much because we have quite a bit of ground to cover, a few locations and in some cases many, many kilometres between them. But before we set off, maybe I could ask you a general question. What's so important about this standard, ISO 7101?
Well, that's a great question. There's lots of important things about the standard, but I would say, it's the first international consensus standard from ISO for healthcare quality management. So that on itself makes it special. But I think the fact that it lays out very specific requirements for healthcare delivery that's safe and effective and efficient and equitable and patient-centered or people-centered makes it of the utmost importance, especially with all the challenges that we're facing today as far as healthcare.
And for BSI, what's been your specific role with it?
Yeah, so I was hired as the technical expert for the standard. So I've created the internal BSI training, external training for our customers and our clients. I travel the world and I am the cheerleader for the standard. I talk about the content and the purpose and the goals of the standard. I've also been instrumental in writing the scheme that will be used by BSI to be accredited by ANAB to later certify hospitals and healthcare organizations who are interested in being certified to the standard.
Now, we're speaking roughly a year or so, sort of 18 months after the publication of ISO 70101. So where are we now generally?
Right. So we are much further along than most new standards are after a year. People don't realize that, like ISO 9001, when it came out, it took years for it to really catch on, and ISO 14000 as well. So we are in the early adopters phase, I would say, but there is a ton of momentum. And I would say every month I hear about another national standards body or another organization that's offering training or another webinar or another organization that's implementing the standards. So I would say we're in the startup phases, but we're moving quickly.
Nice. So, okay then, where is our first destination?
Well, I'm rather a fan of Mexico, so let's head to Mexico.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the vibrant heart of Mexico. Puebla, a city rich in history, culture, and culinary wonders, is not only the capital and largest city of its state, but also stands as the fourth largest city in the country with a population of 1.6 million people. And what's more, Puebla is home to the prestigious Hospital Puebla, the first in Latin America to achieve 7101 certification, setting a new standard for excellence in healthcare.
Angela, so how is it that Mexico seems to be moving so quickly as far as adopting the standard is concerned, in comparison to many other countries?
Yeah, so I think it's been a mixture of a couple factors. One is that, Mexico has a health system that has both a public and private structure, but the private hospitals are usually quite innovative and they strive to provide a certain level of excellence in care. And a lot of this has to do also with medical tourism. So people come, they want to show the highest level of quality, so there's trust and people coming in from the outside. Also, some of the first adopters and innovators, innovative individuals as far as this standard, were doctors from the Colegio Médico de Especialistas en Calidad. So it's a medical college that are specialists in quality. And they approached BSI, and we did the first ever ISO requirements training and ISO lead auditor course in Mexico City last November. So we had 60 medical professionals trained and ready to start implementing this standard and talking about this standard throughout Mexico.
And how did the Hospital Puebla, how did that earn certification so quickly?
Yeah, so Hospital Puebla is a great example of an organization, a facility that was already certified to ISO 9001. So ISO 7101 is not ISO 9001 for healthcare, but it follows the same management system structure with requirements for healthcare organizations. So they already had a good a quality management system in place. So they just had to raise the bar a little more and incorporate those additional elements of ISO 7101. So the journey for them was a bit shorter. And we're finding this is a great opportunity for many organizations or facilities that are already 9001 certified that want to up the ante and take that next step.
So, Angela, that sounds like a really exciting start here in Mexico.
Yeah, I'm very positive about the progress they are making, and I see, if they keep going in this direction, a really promising future for the implementation of the standard throughout the country.
So, Angela, that's Mexico. Where are we headed next?
Well, I thought maybe we could stay in the Americas and head over to Argentina.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Luján, a charming city nestled in the Buenos Aires province of Argentina, 70 kilometers northwest of the nation's bustling capital. Here in Luján, a groundbreaking initiative is underway. 24 primary care centers across the municipality are raising the bar in healthcare by implementing the ISO 7101 standard.
So, Angela, tell me more about the 24 primary care centres that are pursuing certification for this standard. How did you hear about them?
I was contacted by a gentleman named Leandro Pablo Aelo out of Argentina, who's the director of the position is modernization and management for the municipality of Luján. So Luján, Argentina. And he told me that they were embarking on some really innovative improvement projects, and they were going to implement the standard in 24, we would call them like primary healthcare centers throughout the municipality.
So that sounds really exciting. So why is that significant?
The reason this is so significant is so far the biggest push on the standard I have seen is from private entities, right? Not at more the governmental Ministry of Health systems level, but this is the public sector, which makes it really exciting because if it works for them, it could be, adopted by other municipalities or at an even larger health system level. So this is why it's really interesting.
I'm going to ask you about the national standards body for Argentina called IRAM. What role have they played in the promotion of this standard?
IRAM has been probably one of the most active national standards body as far as creating and implementing the standard. We had 3 experts from the national standards body in the technical committee who actually created the standard. Then IRAM itself, as a national standards body, is offering certification directly to healthcare organizations who would like to implement and become certified to the standard. They also were the first standards or country standards body to translate the standard into their language. So thanks to IRAM, the standard is officially available in Spanish.
And Angela, what's so special about IRAM being the first national standards body to translate the standard into Spanish?
Yeah, the reason this is so special is because when ISO publishes a standard, it gets published in English. And then later, if there's a lot of demand, it usually gets translated into French. But historically, it's up to every national standards body to officially translate the standard into their language. So they were really quite the first movers in this regard. And I'm hoping this stands as an example for it to later be translated into French and into German and into Italian and into Chinese. So all those national standards bodies have to take that step to do that translation as well.
Now, let's travel to Argentina's neighbor to the north, Brazil. International standards are the result of remarkable global collaboration, bringing together a vast and diverse network of experts. In the development of ISO 7101, specialists from Brazil played a pivotal role, contributing valuable insights and expertise that helped shape the standard.
Now, Angela, when we were in Argentina, we talked about the standard being translated into Spanish. So what does it mean to have the standard translated in a language such as Portuguese?
So this is a really big deal, and it's quite exciting. The national standards body, it's called ABNT. I don't even dare attempt to say it in Portuguese.
I could make you. Why don't you have a go for us? I'm sure the listeners would love. Go on.
Brasileira de Normas Técnicas. There
Beautiful.
we go. Yes. So their technical committee 304 is currently, as we speak, translating the standard into Portuguese. And people take for granted thinking how this is done, thinking it's so easy. But each word has to really be analyzed to make sure that the intent is what the writers of the standard meant. So their committee is meeting and they're translating it into Portuguese. And it's important because, they're not the only Portuguese speaking country. We've got Portugal, and then we have, our African nations, such, as Angola, Cape Verde, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, if I said that right. So it's really it's an important work that they're doing.
And Brazilian experts also played a key role in the development of the standard itself, didn't they?
They did. We had 3 Brazilian experts in the work group that helped write the standard. So it was excellent to get a view of what they felt was, necessary for healthcare quality from the Brazilian viewpoint.
So based on what you're seeing now, and obviously the sort of commitment that is being made by the national standards body here, and also in the development of the standard itself, how do you see the future of ISO 7101 in Brazil?
I'm actually quite amazed and very positive and motivated about what I'm seeing there because, for one thing, their technical committee that's been meeting, their meetings, they have over 60 people. That is unheard of. So there's a lot of experts that are interested in the standard. They're starting every day. I'm seeing more and more seminars, classes. Once the standard is, officially launched in Portuguese, I think they're going to, there's some rumors about, starting accreditation and certification. So Brazil is very big and there's a big market. So I'm seeing a lot of potential for the standard in Brazil.
Standards affect all of us every day, wherever we go, whatever we do. By defining good practice, they help people and organizations to do things better. Each year, standards bodies publish thousands of standards, and we are looking for more people like you to join our community of standards makers. We welcome applicants from all fields, backgrounds, and career stages. Our goal is a simple one: to have a balance of views around the table. By becoming a standards maker, you could help to improve the way things are made and done, like creating healthier and more inclusive workplaces, developing higher quality healthcare systems, making advances in AI governance, or accelerating climate action, and many, many others. So, if you want to make a difference and shape the world through standards, start your standards making journey now. Details of how to do so are in the show notes.
Okay, Angela, we have been in Latin America, but where should we head now?
Well, let's take a bit of a longer trip this time. We're going to head across the Atlantic now and across Africa into India.
India, the most populated country in the world, so it's no surprise that it has around 70,000 hospitals. Here, BSI is currently spearheading 2 ISO 7101 impact projects in hospitals across the Indian state of Tamil Nadu. By tracking key performance indicators and gathering crucial data, we're gaining insights to guide best practices.
So, Angela, I want to ask you about these BSI impact projects. How did we find the hospitals to take part?
So we found these hospitals through this great collaborative relationship that we have with this organization called CAHO, and that's the Consortium of Accredited Hospital Organizations, and it really is the thought leader in India of um, hospitals and experts that work in hospital accreditation, certification, improvement projects. So we collaborated with them as BSI, and they nominated 2 hospitals that they thought would be great for this pilot program that would meet the requirements or our needs. So that's how we found them.
And at what stage in the process are we with these projects?
Well, so we completed the first stage about 5-6 months ago, where we did some on-site training as far as the requirements of the standard with about 40 experts from this consortium I talked about from CAHO. Now they are in the project. We already did a gap analysis in each of the facilities. And now that the gaps were identified, we're in the process of implementing new processes and procedures. And at the same time, we had identified certain healthcare quality indicators that we were going to track throughout implementation to see, if we're improving upon these and if we're meeting these indicator goals. So we're about halfway through implementation and we're seeing some positive results.
And when will there be some results to share from the impact projects?
I'm thinking in about another 6 months that we could probably show some results out of India. Okay, Matthew, I think I've had enough jet lag here. Let's make our way homeward. But first, let's stop off in Europe and specifically Switzerland, France, and Italy.
Now, I knew I had a bit of insider knowledge here. I knew these 3 countries would be on our list, and I've done some forward planning you'll like to know.
Oh, great.
Now, there is a tri-point where France, Italy, and Switzerland, where they meet, and it's near the top of Mont Dolent in the following towns. Okay. So we've got
Okay.
Chamonix, which is a French commune, in the I'm going to pronounce it, Suave department. And we've got Courmayeur, which is an Italian city in the Aosta Valley. Do you know either of these places so far?
No, not so far.
And Orsières, which is a Swiss commune in the canton of Valais. So where should we stay? Chamonix, Courmayeur, or Orsières?
So I'm going to go with Chamonix because I happen to know it was the first site of the Winter Olympics in 1924. And there is a stunning view of Mont Blanc.
In Europe, an accreditation body in Italy is preparing to accredit AFNOR, the national standards body of France, enabling them to certify a healthcare organization in Switzerland for ISO 7101. This is a fantastic example of international collaboration driving higher standards for healthcare quality across borders.
Now, Angela, this cross-border collaboration is fascinating. Why do you think it's unfolding like this?
So I think it's unfolding like this. For one thing, France and Italy and Switzerland are so intertwined up there in the where they meet. A lot of industries, a lot of things happen around that area like that. But specifically, I think it's because the standard is so new. Every country has a little part of something, but not all the systems are in place. So, for example, the certification, AFNOR wants to do the certification and they're out of France. But the accreditation body who's going to accredit them is the national standards body of Italy. But the facility seeking certification is in Switzerland. So we've got, little players out there in all these countries. So at this point, they have to come together with what's out there and the resources that they have. So I think it's kind of unfolding like this until every country is up and running with everything it needs in place to certify for itself.
Now, obviously, in Europe, we have many countries and obviously many different healthcare systems. How do you see the standard growing in Europe generally?
Well, I think that, it could be challenging because of all these different, national healthcare systems that we have. I think it will first probably be motivated or dispersed through private healthcare facilities who are just seeking to really show that higher level, a higher attention to healthcare quality. I also think that as facilities, organizations start adopting it more and more, that it will catch on. And I also think that if it becomes a European norm, it is an ISO standard, but it can be adopted as a European norm. That this will also help um, to grow the need or the notoriety of the standard.
How about any sort of hot off the press examples of where the standard is working in Europe?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you should ask this. Just today, I got some exciting news out of Cyprus. Actually, there was Cyprus was quite active in the writing of the standard as well. Their technical committee did a lot of good work. Their main expert, Elena, she was incredible. But she told me today that the Cyprus Standards Organization, they're going to start offering certification to ISO 7101 as well. So that's excellent news, hot off the press. You heard it here first.
That is exciting indeed. Now, Angela, where are we going for our final destination?
All right, so let's head back to the UK, or more specifically, England and Wales.
In Wales, clinical staff from Swansea Bay University Health Board, part of the NHS system, became the first in the UK to complete the ISO 7101 requirements course. They are now applying the standard to radiotherapy services. Meanwhile, in England, King's Fertility, part of King's College Hospital in London, serving both NHS and private patients, has also adopted the ISO 7101 standard. These initiatives in Wales and England exemplify BSI's impactful projects driving improvements in healthcare.
So radiotherapy physics, now that's quite a specific type of care, isn't it? We heard about that for Wales. How does ISO 7101 apply here?
Yeah, so I love this example, and I love that we have them as a pilot site because it really shows the nature of the flexibility of the standard, because it is for healthcare quality. But as with other ISO management standards, if something does not apply, you can justify it with an exclusion. So, radiotherapy physics doesn't, for example, do blood transfusions, right? And that's in the standard, but they can put that as an acceptable exclusion. So, they're applying all the people-centered care aspects and all the contingency planning and best clinical practices within ISO 7101, but they don't have to the things that aren't applicable to radiotherapy physics, they do not have to be compliant to that part of the standard. So that's how the beauty of the standard and how it applies there.
So switching to England then, Angela, we heard about King's Fertility. Now, it's interesting that King's Fertility serves both the private sector and the NHS. How is ISO 7101 advantageous in this case?
Yeah, so we were really quite fortunate to pick a pilot site or partner with a site that works. Well, not only is it such a niche sector, no, fertility, but also that is both private and public. So they provide care to the NHS community, people who are referred from the NHS for fertility services, but they also serve the private sector as well. And I think it's just another great example of how ISO 7101 is so flexible. It can be advantageous in both the public and private setting.
Angela, with the Wales example and the example in England, what is BSI doing here to support the healthcare providers in their implementation journeys for ISO 70101?
Well, actually, these two facilities are two more of BSI's impact projects in addition to India. So these are our projects, in the UK, and we are supporting them with training and expertise. In fact, the individuals who are implementing this in both of those facilities were the first ones to ever receive the newly written and published ISO 7101 requirements course. So we all met for a couple days in Chiswick and learned together about the requirements of the standard and how to implement those requirements. So that's so the great thing about this course is now it's being offered publicly at BSI, and we also have a new internal auditor course for 7101 that's being offered.
So with these two BSI impact projects, Angela, what are we planning to do with the results?
So with both of these organizations, we collaborated to pick specific healthcare quality indicators that were important to those organizations, and at the same time, making sure that we address those that are required by the standard. So we're tracking that data. And then, once we have that data, we're also looking at lessons learned along the way. That's a really, really important thing. So we're hoping we can later share this data with the NHS and, their providers to give them good examples of best practices and what has really worked well with positive, which ones lead to the best positive outcomes.
Okay, Angela, we have crisscrossed the globe there. We've gone from Mexico to Argentina, Brazil, India, Switzerland, Italy, France, England and Wales, and now I need a bit of a lie down. Yes, so I'm thinking, what's exciting you for ISO 7101 over the next 12 months or so?
Well, don't unpack your luggage, or maybe you could just do a load of wash. But I'm excited to see what's going on in Asia. There's a lot of movement going on in Japan. BSI Japan has already sold some of its first training on ISO 7101 to a very large hospital system. And it just seems to like the standard. I think it's gonna have some movement in Asia. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about, this is the year that BSI should be getting its accreditation from ANAB. So I think then we'll be able to go out and start certifying more organizations, and it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. A lot of organizations don't want to implement new standards or a standard unless they can be certified. So I think once we're up and ready to offer that, we're going to see a lot more growth and movement. But, for me, Matthew, it's always all about population health, healthy communities, health outcomes, and well-being. So that's really what I hope, that, the standard as it gets implemented, that we're seeing these improvements and, really
exciting times ahead.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really nice traveling with you, Angela McCaskill.
Indeed. You are a great traveling partner as well, Matthew Childs.
A big thank you to Angela McCaskill for being my travel companion on this mini world tour, exploring how ISO 7101, the international standard for healthcare quality management, is making an impact. Now, if you want to know more about ISO 7101 or about how to get involved in standards, then check out the links in the show notes. And the show notes is also the place where you can find details of our socials and all the other ways to get in touch with us here on The Standard Show.
You have been listening to an episode of The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards, with Matthew Childs and Cindy Parakill.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.